A few weeks ago, Fantasia said this.
You have to learn how to submit. It all works together, but you can't be the head of the house. You got to let the man be the head of the house.
And it sparked a lot of discussion and debate online about the modern woman and her role in the home, family, and society. Now, I have a lot of strong, personal, and probably a little bit biased opinions about this topic. But in this brain snack, let's stick to the objective facts. Let's explore the neurological basis of dominance and submission and see how different men and women really are. Like every species, human beings are the result of billions of years of evolution. Unlike every species, though, human behavior is shaped powerfully by things like culture, history, and technology. So let's keep in mind that culture influences the differences that we see between men and women, even as we seek to answer what's truly natural for each gender. So are men really more naturally dominant than women? Well, first, let's start by defining dominance. Dominance is an individual's preferential access to resources over someone else's. It's the ability to dictate the behavior of others, to promote one's own gain. In other words, dominance is I get my way. I get access to the food, the fire, the followers. I have the will and the power to make what I want happen, even at the expense or inconvenience of others. Now, sometimes dominance does involve aggression or being assertive, and in some cases even being violent, but it doesn't have to. Studies conducted in the 1990s, for instance, in male prisons, reveal that some of the most dominant men in those prisons ranked low on aggressive behavior. The fact is, there are many people that are really dominant but not aggressive at all. Now, expressions of dominance can be verbal. Dominant people tend to talk louder, have deeper voices, talk more during a conversation. Dominant people tend to talk faster and they interrupt conversations more. Expressions of social dominance can also be nonverbal. Dominant people make eye contact longer and more frequently. They're more likely to display dominant and open body language. They tend to have less ambiguous facial expressions. Finally, dominance can be considered in a social context, as it manifests itself everywhere from the classroom to the courtroom to the bedroom. Indeed, dominant people are considered more attractive. They're more likely to take risks, more likely to seek out leadership positions, and more likely to display antisocial or norm-violating behavior. So, are men more dominant than women? Well, the answer is yes and no. Let me explain. Studies show that men trump women on virtually every measure of social dominance. Men have deeper and louder voices. They're more likely to assert their opinion in conversation and more likely to interrupt, especially if the speaker is a woman. In a 2014 study, researchers found that out of 48 interruptions in conversations between 11 men and 11 women, 46 of those interruptions were by men. So clear differences. But those differences become a little blurry when men talk to other men and women talk to other women. Men are much less likely to interrupt other men, about as likely as women are to interrupt other women. This implies that while women are not as dominant as men, they're as likely to be dominant as men are. Okay, said another way, let's say you have 100 men in a room and 25 of them are highly dominant, 50 of them are somewhat dominant, and the last 25 are not dominant at all or submissive. Well, these numbers would be pretty much the same if you had 100 women in a different room. 25 of them would be considered highly dominant for their gender. In mixed gender settings, men are more likely to be more dominant than women. True, but in same gender settings, the numbers are more similar. Women are almost as likely to display dominant open body language as men, to maintain direct eye contact, and to express emotion considered dominant for their gender. Further, dominant men and dominant women behave and make decisions in pretty much the same way whenever they face a challenge to their status or access to resources. These similarities between men and women can be explained by the normal genetic variation that exists amongst people. Some men are tall, and so are some women. Some men are dominant, and so are some women. On average, men are taller than women, but a woman is as likely to be considered tall for her gender as a man is to be considered tall for his. The differences in the higher propensity for men to be and seek dominance can be explained by two things: testosterone and culture. Testosterone is a hormone that's produced by both men and women by their adrenal glands and their sex organs. Its production is controlled by the brain. Ovaries and adrenal cortices, though, they only make very small amounts of the hormone. The latex cells of a man's testes pumps out 7 times more testosterone than the average woman makes, and even more than that in highly dominant men. Indeed, studies conducted since the 70s in species ranging from humans to rats to chickens show a clear link between testosterone levels and displays of dominant behavior. Men have a clear biological upper hand in this regard. Even the most dominant of women don't have nearly half as much testosterone circulating through their bloodstreams as the average man. This is partly what explains the stark gap between men and women on almost every measure of dominance. But culture. Culture plays a huge role in not only magnifying these differences and fueling the perceived dominance of men, but also establishing hierarchical systems that reciprocate a man's dominance, irrespective of the fact that men and women are equally likely to be dominant people. So take, for example, leadership positions. Kings, principals, heads of households, none of these things are written in a man's DNA, and none of them are natural or inherent to him. And women are not less capable or less successful when they hold these positions. But because of a man's higher propensity towards dominance, it makes him more likely to seek out such positions, which normalizes it for us. This by virtue also normalizes women in subordinate positions, whether or not they're truly submissive. And because because this subordinate status for women is normalized, you get people saying things like this.
You have to learn how to submit.
Because it's normalized, men, women, entire societies are more likely to write and interpret Bible passages, Facebook posts, relationship advice, all to support the worldview that women are naturally more submissive. When, as we've seen, that's not the case. Another factor that muddies people's understanding of dominance is its existence on a spectrum. We like to think that people are either dominant or submissive. That's it. But that's not it. Some people are dominant and some people are less, and some people are submissive. To be less dominant is not the same thing as being submissive, nor should it systematically sanction your submission. To be less dominant is not the same thing as being submissive, nor should it systematically sanction your submission. Telling all women to submit to men is like telling all women to be shorter than men.
Can we not? Can we not do that?
So in sum, men are hardwired to be more dominant than women on average, but women are no more likely to be submissive than men are. Women conceding to secondary social status is a cultural construction. And while it does admittedly have biological underpinnings that lie in a man's testes, it's important that we understand the difference. If you found anything interesting or useful in this video, please like and comment and let me know what it is. If you think someone else will find it useful, maybe share your snacks with them. Thanks for watching. I'll see you at snack time. FYI, I do consider myself a highly dominant person, but you probably guessed that.